right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Town Chronicles, your show, your podcast for all things Ashland. My name is Michael Herbert. I'm your town manager, and very excited about today's program because we've got two very, very special guests. From our Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee, we've got Rajashree Ghosh and then also Stacy Grant Lewis. They are the co-chairs of the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. And we'll talk to them a little bit about the comprehensive plan and a little bit about themselves and how they got interested in Ashland and in part of the committee. But first, before we get into that, I just want to remind everybody that town meeting is going to be coming up on May 1st at 7 p.m. at the Ashland High School auditorium. We will have more information about the warrant and all the articles that are going to be on the warrant at town meeting. That will be up online on our website and then also through our social media pages. And we look forward to seeing you there. That's just a reminder for everybody. Town meeting is our legislative body, and it's where a lot of very, very important decisions get made. And so we really, really need your input and really need your participation as residents to make sure that this town goes in the direction that you would like it to go in. So speaking of directions, we're going to talk about a comprehensive plan here with Stacy and Rajashree. And I'll just ask you the question, what is the comprehensive plan, and get into why it's important for our listeners.
Well, that's a big question. I'll take a stab at it first. Hi, listeners. I'm Stacy Grant Lewis. The comprehensive plan that we've named the Envision Ashland Plan is your opportunity as community residents, participants, to take the next steps to what Ashland will look like over the next 10 years. So this plan runs from 2025 through 2035 and beyond. We've hired a consultant, a very adept consultant, to help lead us and guide us through this process. On your committee sits 29 very, very passionate community members, me being one of them. We spend our evenings once a month working through structural, transportation, community, recreation, open space, sustainability, all of the things that we think, that we know are important to Ashland based on your commentary. So, that's a start. Rajashree.
Hi, I'm Rajashree, and thank you for inviting me to this podcast.
Of course.
So with the comprehensive plan, I look at it as a forward-thinking document, a forward-thinking process where we're looking at a shared commitment, where all of us are engaged in a shared vision of what we want this town to be. And we are acting together through this steering committee, finding commonalities, finding the differences. I think that most of us we're different, but that's important so that diverse voices are seen, they're audible, they're credible, and that we all make this plan what it is.
Great. And so, both of you mentioned the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. Stacy, you mentioned the fact that it's 29 people.
Right.
So what is that committee composed of? Who is it composed of?
So we have representatives from all the committees and councils, town councils. We have representatives from 5 precincts, me being one of them. I'm from Precinct 5. There is the select board members, 2 of the select board members, 2 of the planning board members, and several others. And you're there too.
In full disclosure, I'm part of the committee too, but nobody wants to hear me talk anymore.
And Peter Machak also is part of the committee.
Peter, our town planner. Peter, who actually has experience in comprehensive plans.
Sure. He's the planner, so he obviously does.
Exactly. Peter, I believe, has been through 2 himself in previous communities, so it's great to get his experience and his expertise as part of the committee.
Right.
And I think just to give a little insight into how, the Comprehensive Plan Committee, that makeup was, how that constitution was arrived at was a very long process between the planning board and the select board and myself and Peter. And really, It's a big committee, which has its own challenges,
Right.
which we can talk about a little bit later. But it was very, very important to get as many diverse perspectives as part of this plan
Right.
as possible. And I think that's why it's got so much representation on it. Like you said, Rajeshri, I think we got 6 precincts now. We used to have 5, now we got 6.
6.
And then, the rest are made up of different boards and committees, like you said, the select board, the planning board, but the cultural council,
Right, I
conservation
represent the
commission.
Cultural Council, yep.
Yes, and like you said, Rajeshri, you're representing precinct 5. Stacy, as part of the cultural council, you're representing the cultural council on the committee.
Yeah. May I add that those of us who are representing precincts, each one of us went through a rigorous selection process because we were not part of any town council. We were not representing any committee as such. So that process was long.
It's pretty rigorous,
It was
yeah.
worse than a job interview.
Oh, gosh.
And somebody even checked my job, the other professional space. You know who you are. So it was a rigorous process.
Did I tell you I put you through a full background investigation before we did?
I wouldn't be
Corey check.
surprised.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
okay.
be surprised.
We made sure we couldn't have any riffraff on the committee. So
No,
we
and
had
I
to-
hid well.
You did well.
Yes,
You did
hid.
well.
Hid.
For sure. So, we talked a little bit about what the comprehensive plan is and, why it's so important. But, one of the things that we talked about that's an important component of this is public engagement.
Yes.
And not just getting the opinions of the 29 members on the steering committee, but representatives of voices from all different parts of the
Right.
town. And so what are some of the ways, as the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee, what are some of the ways that we're utilizing to get that input?
Well, we're in a really exciting phase right now, phase 2. There are 4 phases to the plan.
Yes.
And we're in phase 2, public engagement, and this part of the phase will wrap up on April 26th. But that includes, we're doing these focus groups, which Michael will go through a little bit more in detail, called Meeting in a Box. And when we're meeting with small groups, 2 to 8 people at a time, going through 7 important questions, asking for their feedback. For those of you who are a little shyer and not able to attend a meeting in a box, we also have a community survey. I will say this community survey takes about 10 to 20 minutes, depending on your internet connection, so just be aware. We have a crowd map, which is kind of fun to use. It's where you can actually pin areas of opportunity for yourself. So for example, if you wanted a sidewalk on Cedar Street, you could actually go onto the crowd map and pin that there and say that's something that you want.
Excellent.
So these are tools that were provided to us by our consultant, James Golson, and their team. So each of these tools, all the steering members are aware of these, and they will be reaching out in the next few weeks until April 26th and talk to you about how you can be involved. And so please look out for them. Engage with us in whatever way you feel comfortable. There are people who are writing to us at the Comprehensive Plan steering email address, I want to be in a meeting in a box. And so it's very resident-led. And so, your voice needs to be counted. You have an idea about the future of the town, about the present conditions. For instance, we did a meeting in a box with seniors. There is a lot of excitement with the construction going on in town, but then there are other voices who are not so excited.
I usually hear from those voices.
I heard both sides, and it's important to have both
Yes.
sides because
Yes.
that's what is our consolidated response system that goes into the data processing, which the Golsons will handle. But it's important to give that input and lend that voice.
Sure. And so both of you have been involved in several of these focus groups that we're calling meetings in a box. And, I know I've had my own experiences with them and my own takeaways. But for both of you, what has been the biggest surprise that has come out of these focus groups?
I just want to add on to what Rajeshri said. There's so much that we don't know about our beautiful town. There's so much history here. There are people that have lived here their entire lives and people who are still considered new, even though they've been here for 30, 40 years. So I think that unearthing that kind of information has been really exciting. And then there's like the natural tension between that and people who have moved here more recently and who want to see progress in a different kind of way. So I think kind of just surfacing that kind of information has been really enlightening, exciting. There is tension there, and I just want everybody to know experiencing tension is not necessarily a bad thing. We just need to hear from all parties involved. Right. So that's been really exciting.
Yeah. For me, I was exposed to this group of people who have lived in Ashland for a decade or so, but were completely unaware of town's offerings. They're a cultural group, and they now want to be involved with whatever is going on in town. They did the survey, they did the meeting in a box, and they want to take it forward. So that has been exciting for me that I was able to reach them. But it also makes me wonder how many other groups are there that have not been reached, and they really need to be front and center in this comprehensive planning process. And then there are other groups that have been vocal through and through, but they also realize that there is a certain set of questions, and that kind of brings them in a certain focus, and streamline their responses according to that. So it's not a haywire kind of a process. When we are asking questions, we do want the response that'll help the town plan better.
Right. And just to kind of echo what both of you said, one of the most interesting parts and surprising parts of this whole process is, for me, I should say, is with the steering committee itself. And I take for granted the fact that I know all of you, but a lot of you didn't know each other as you started this process. And I think for me, one of the most exciting things or fun things to watch is to watch the steering committee members like build those relationships and have, get to know each other's perspectives. Stacy, I know, like at the very early stages, you had a good conversation with Carl Hackinson, who is one of those gentlemen who have been here. His family has been here for generations. Yep. And you come at it with varying perspectives about things. Can you just talk a little bit about your approach of how do you approach those conversations, and making sure that you get your points across but also being open-minded?
Right. Well, I agree with you that the steering committee is kind of a microcosm of Ashland. It's everyone who's passionate and willing to devote their time to this project that's on that steering committee. So I want to echo that sentiment. I think open-mindedness is how I approach this process. I'm a newbie in the sense that I've only been here for 6 years. I still think of a newbie to the state. I've only been here for 9 years. I moved here from New York, where I was a hardcore New Yorker for a very long time, and I moved to this beautiful town, Ashland, where it's just gorgeous open space, very friendly neighbors, very friendly and approachable town management, all the things that make you want to put down roots. So having an opportunity to even talk to Carl on a one-on-one, basis was really new to me and really enlightening, really eye-opening, because Carl had a wealth of information to share and just a different perspective. And I just kept thinking, wow, other people should know this. You move here and you get kind of, set in your ways with your kids and your neighbors and the church or the synagogue that you go to, and that's your world. But there was a world here before we moved here, and there are people who are moving here now to this new world that is here now. And so I just think that there are ways to connect those points, and that's what really blew my mind. Like, okay, there's something to be really offered here for everyone.
Yeah, and Rajeshri, how about you? Can you tell me one of those conversations that really kind of opened your eyes and enlightened you to a perspective maybe you didn't have before?
Well, there was many such occasions, but I echo Stacy's sentiments. I came to this country as a trailing spouse, and which means if you ever do a segment on immigration, that'll be a big one. Okay. But spouses who are wives are not allowed to to work for pay, but they're free to travel and do education. So there were years when I spent not being counted. I did not have a Social Security. I was given a tax ID because I was expected to pay taxes out of what, I don't know. But not being able to stand up for myself, that was the hardest few years. And around the same time is when we decided to move to Ashland.
Okay.
We thought, okay, let's make a change because this is not helping us. I was volunteering in different places. I was working with a women's studies program at BU, and I would take the tea. And I said, what's the next town that we can afford a house in where there's the tea option? And that was Ashland. It was affordable, and we just drove around. We said, oh, we like it. So with that, I'd started to look at different opportunities where I could use my talent, I could use my background, and I found that people in Ashland were welcoming to that. They could have easily said, no, it's okay, you're the trailing spouse. But that didn't happen. And as with the immigration process, it was a slow process. But when I first came into the situation where everything was regulated for me, and I knew how to work my way through the immigration process, I realized that there was so much more that I could do in town. And so when I have conversations with members of the steering about, okay, there's a health issue somebody is going on with. There's somebody who's passed on. There's a personal aspect to each of these members on the steering that I connect with. And it's important for us as a community of steering members to lean on each other because there are so many moments that we feel like maybe we failed ourselves in this job. But I've seen how people support each other through arguments, through discontent, and through communication barriers. But the fact that everybody comes together because they have the good in themselves and they're looking at how Ashland can be a better place, no matter which direction they come from. That has been really enriching for me.
Oh, great. Great.
Wow, that was revelatory for me. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah,
So.
and I've known you for years, Rajashree, and I didn't.
You never asked.
Yeah, I never asked. Yeah.
Wow.
But that's one of the reasons I love these conversations.
Yeah.
Is you find out new things about
Yeah.
people all the time. And both of you have talked about some of the great opportunities that the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee has provided for you as individuals. But I just want to turn and pivot a little bit. And what do you think's been the biggest challenge?
Well, I think people are uncomfortable with tension. I'm going to say that T word again. I am a project manager by trade. That's what I've done for a living for some time. And in project management, I can say that tension is a good trait. But not everybody agrees that it is, right? So they're uncomfortable about how to navigate if they disagree or if they are not aligned with the overall project. There's this tendency to think it's got to be black or it's got to be white when there's a lot of gray area in between. So I think that's a human tendency. And
I would
working
agree.
through that kind of discomfort can be a challenge with a group that large, right? So
Yeah.
there are people who may feel like, okay, I just won't say anything, or people who overcompensate and say too much. I think it's just navigating that kind of personal discomfort with tension.
Yeah. What about you, Rajashree?
Yeah, so I've worked with community engagement for a very long time, even in my professional space. So I was dying to get into this public engagement phase because this is what is the crux of the matter. But what I've found challenging has been that all voices are not loud enough in the committee, and that I couldn't hear from a few people. That was gnawing at me, that, there are some members who are able to vocalize what they're feeling or what they're intending to say, but the others were not, and they were holding back for a variety of reasons. It's maybe their personality, maybe what they heard wasn't gelling with them, but individual connections helped in this manner. So I would go up to each person and talk about what really works for them, what really attracts them to be part of this. And I think now they're blooming in their roles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Recently in the volunteers breakfast that you missed, but Stacy and I were there.
I was doing a meeting in the box.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
Good excuse.
But
library.
it was great because there were so many of the comprehensive plan members, steering members who were there, and each one of them got up to talk about, they were publicizing the plan on their own, and so it just made me feel really proud for them. Except for Chuck Lids, who forgot he was on the comprehensive plan. He's on multiple other...
Oh, Chuck, you're in the doghouse.
He's on multiple other groups, and he talked at length about that. But I told him, we're going to give you a hard time, so this is the hard time.
Oh, okay. Well, I think Chuck's been a little under the weather, so we can give him a pass on that. Chuck, who's a member of the Sustainability Committee and represents the Sustainability Committee on the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee, does a lot of great work.
Yes, he does.
For the
Yes.
town.
We can pull his leg, though, even though
sure.
he's had surgery.
I was about to say, hopefully not the one that...
Not the shoulder, but the leg, yes.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest challenge from my perspective is just the size of the group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. And
Well, you put it together, so you deal
I know
with it.
nobody to blame but me.
Yes.
So, it was something I will say I underestimated a little bit. Is how big of a challenge it is to make sure that when you've got that big a group, making sure that there's equal access to and opportunities to make comments. And I think you're right. I think some of the more vocal people, myself included, are used to speaking, in front of groups or as part of committees. And I think it's easy to take for granted that not everybody has that experience.
Right. But over time, I feel like the trust has just bloomed, like you said, Rajeshri, over time. I think those people who are less comfortable are able to come up to both of us individually.
And they're taking on responsibilities. Yes. Can I do this? Can I do that? And everything is so important, and it makes a significant change to the planning process.
And I will say, just you two are co-chairs, and I think both of you have done a really good job of kind of laying that foundation and making sure that there is that opportunity for people to get engaged. But I think, speaking of co-chairs, what made you both decide to kind of throw your names in the hat
Did we
for
throw
that
our
one?
names?
You know what? That's a good point.
Not as chairs, but I threw my name for a member. I wanted to be a member.
Right, yeah. That's right. You were kind of volunteered.
Yeah, we were volunteered as
And
Voluntold.
somebody recruited us. Steve recruited me,
Gotcha.
and he said, why she can do it. And then you were recruited by
Steve.
By Steve.
Yeah. So,
Steve, it's all your fault.
Steve, we're gonna blame you on this one. So,
Yeah.
Steve's used to getting blamed for things.
Yeah,
So,
he can take it.
he can take it.
I think we both, there was a vacancy in leading the plan initially, and we had said that, we would do it temporarily until the group made a decision, and the group made a decision, and here we are still leading. So that's how that happened.
So, I gotta ask you. These focus groups, or when we've talked about the survey, and we get updates from Goldson about our community engagement and public engagement and how we're doing on that. But I have noticed in the different focus groups that I've been a part of, very common themes come out. And I'm wondering if you two have had the same experience. And if you have, what are some of those common themes that you've heard?
That they all love the open space and the green spaces here. Some of them have talked about the routes they take from downtown area to Mill Pond and then Trolley Brook and Stone Park, and that has been really one of the common themes that I see. The other thing is many of the groups are talking about places to gather.
Yeah.
This is a social town.
Yes.
And they're looking for spaces. Sometimes they talk about restaurants that are available, but it's not like what it used to be. There were opportunities earlier, apparently, way before I was here. So they want a replacement of something called News Ashland.
The Ashland News Store.
Ashland News, yeah. So it's like drop in, have a coffee, chat with people, and leave. So that kind of opportunity. And then the other opportunity for gathering for cultural groups.
Yep.
Where do they perform? There's no auditorium. So that they're talking about, is the Valentine's property available for that? So there are these questions. One of the young students who I interviewed from Ashland High School talked about the fact that older kids have no place to gather because younger kids will go to the swing set. Older kids will be mocked. The swing is not for you. So they were talking about why not the Dairy Queen be changed into an arcade kind of a mall so they can be indoor-outdoor spaces. So there are different populations who talk about different things. It depends on their needs. But overall, there are many positives about the present, but there are also positive aspirations that I see among the groups that I interviewed.
For sure. And Stacy, what about you?
I don't think it's a coincidence that I've heard the same exact things. Listeners should know that those three populations that you just described are the ones that are the largest in town. So we have a big teen population, 19 and younger. We have older folks, and we have those people who are under 50 and raising families here who want to have a place to go. So I think people are excited about the possibility, the potential of Ashland being a more ambulatory place where you can walk around downtown and enjoy outside activities. But yes, they are looking for indoor spaces to gather.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about the News Corp until I had my meeting in a box.
Exactly.
And how
Same
much
here.
people missed it, and the bakery that was there. And so that brings me to another area of tension is history. Somehow having history integrated into the town so that people know where we came from and where we're going.
Right. I think, so I've heard very similar things, especially when you talk about gathering spaces, indoor gathering spaces.
Yes.
We have the farmer's market, we have the corner spot, great outdoor spaces, but they're outdoors, so
Right.
they're limited. And so there's definitely been a desire expressed by a lot of people to have indoor spaces
Right.
that we can utilize in some of the less warmer months. The other thing that I've heard, and Stacy, you alluded to this, is sidewalks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I was hearing that before we even started doing the comprehensive plan, but it's just amazing how consistent
Right.
that theme is throughout the different groups that we talk to. And open space being
Yeah.
Yeah.
another one as well, preserving open space. I can tell you, I'm surprised just because I hear from a lot of people all the time. That's part of my job, and it's actually one of the favorite parts of my job. But one of the things that I kept on hearing from people was expansion of playing fields. But I'm not hearing that in the comprehensive plan process.
Right,
So
I haven't heard that. But
Yeah.
also, I think we need to interview the younger crowd more.
Right.
Maybe we'll hear it from them, and in those cases, they might have that need, but we haven't heard it as yet.
Right. So, just kind of pivoting to yourselves personally, you talked a little bit about how long you've been in town and what attracted you to Ashland. Talked a little bit about your professional backgrounds a bit. But what do you like to do in your free time?
Oh, I like eating
Like eating? Okay.
a lot. Eating and cooking and traveling when time permits. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Stacy?
I am a fitness nut, self-proclaimed.
The
I work
opposite.
out quite a bit. I love being outside with my dog. You'll see me walking around town with my big white dog. You can say hello, please. I love nature. I love being in Ashland State Park and the town forest. And I love traveling as well. I'll be out of town a lot, as Rajeshri knows, as the weather gets nicer. But yeah,
Yeah.
reading, eating, traveling, and walking.
And then, the other thing that strikes me when I look at the comprehensive plan and all that we're doing, in the past, in my professional space, I have critiqued master plans. Critiqued. Okay. And it's very easy to criticize. It's very easy to do it.
Yeah.
Now I'm in the thick of the process, and I'm part of this whole big team, and we're going ahead with it. It feels like how much I didn't know. And how much there is to learn. I'm connecting different policies, both international and national. They talk about 15-minute city. And I think about the Ashland town in that respect. And yes, in 15 minutes, I could reach many places from downtown. If I start walking, I could reach many places. I could hike. I could go to restaurants. Even the farmer's market is on, I could go there. I could go to the library. I could go into the town hall for anything that I need. So, we are approximating that, even though we're not a city and we're not an international in that sense. But the fact that so many of those realities are right here, doable and thinkable too, that it's been amazing.
Awesome. So I got to ask you, what do you think we can do to increase engagement in the comprehensive plan process? This has been one of our final questions, but it's really important.
I think people need to understand that for the focus groups, you're encouraged to host these yourselves at home in your neighborhood. All you need are 2 other people. You'll be the person that enters the data onto the sheet. You can drop the sheet off at Town Hall if you don't want to submit it electronically. But you're welcome to do that and to share the survey with your network as well. We encourage that. I think people need to know that there's a tendency, and I think it's human, to just kind of say, okay, that's not for me. I won't be listened to anyway. Nothing's going to be done. It's just, that's the human tendency, right? So you kind of have to, if you want to see change or if you want to be recognized, step outside of your comfort zone and realize that may not be true. That we do want to hear from you. We're taking the steps to hear from you and invite your participation. I've never met a town management that's more accessible than the one we have.
Right, I would agree.
It's not multi-layered in the sense that you're going to get caught up in hierarchy.
Yeah.
So just, come out. Let your voice be heard.
Yeah.
It's a really good point that you bring out, Stacy, that people sometimes feel like, even if they say something, that they're not heard. And, it surprises me because, if you look at all the stuff that we're doing in town now, right? I mean, a downtown project, 126 project, working on the Valentine Estate, some of the new buildings that we've built, Mendez and the public safety building, all of those were born out of community dialogue and a community desire. I mean, a lot of people say it's like my vision or whatever, and it's really not. I mean, like whatever vision I do have, it's really an amalgamation of, the different people that I hear from and listen to. So like your voices are heard.
Right.
I mean, some of the things that, you're seeing happening are a direct result of your feedback as residents.
Right. I think that also that people need to realize that although we are the steering and it sounds so lofty, each one of us is also a resident.
Right.
We are resident first before we take on any responsibility to do anything else. And so as fellow residents, I think this is a collective task to talk about what we want to see in this town. We have a shared vision about how this town should look like. It's a commitment that we give to the next generations. How many more years are we going to do this? It's the next generation that we have to be thoughtful about, and what are we leaving behind? So everybody has a say, and it's a public-led event. It's not a town government. They may have put it together, but it will not progress if the residents do not feel comfortable being part of it. And so we are making every effort to open the doors. Every steering member can be reached. And I think all the councils have to step up and start doing the meeting in a boxes to make it more accessible to people.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's a That's a good one to end on. Stacy and Rajashree, thank you so much for being a part of the show. I had to hit the button. I've gone the whole podcast without hitting the button, so I had to hit that. And just to remind everybody, there's different ways to participate. There's the crowd mapping, there's the survey, there's the meeting in the box. If you want to get to the website, what I found is the easiest way to do is to basically type in Envision Ashland into the Google machine, and that's the first link that comes up, and that gives you access to all of those.
They can also go onto the town website, and it has a blue rider right on top.
Correct.
And that'll lead them to the website.
And our meetings are public. Come to one. The next one is on the 18th of April.
18th of April. Yes, they are public. You can show up in person, or you can show up via Zoom. Because we do have them hybrid. But again, thank you so much for being a part of today's podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
This has been fun. And again, everybody, make sure your voice is heard. Get involved. Envision Ashland, our comprehensive plan process. Let us know what you would like to see for Ashland in the next 10 years. And before I forget, if you have any comments or if you have any questions you want us to answer on air, we have an email address set up for this podcast. It's clocktownchronicles@ashlandmass.com. I'm looking over at Melissa Hayes, our communications coordinator. She's giving me the nod that says, yes, Michael, you did get the correct address. So
keep it kind.
Keep it kind, yeah. Kindness matters, folks. All right, everybody, again, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And this is episode number 2. Episode number 3, I haven't decided what we're going to do, but it will no doubt be interesting and probably deal with some planning-related aspects.
Okay.
Not comprehensive planning, but some more acute planning things that we're going through today. So anyway, again, my name is Michael Herbert, your town manager, your host for Clocktown Chronicles, and I'll see you on the next episode.